Narcissists and other toxic people have all kinds of ways to manipulate you into feeling like you can't cut the relationship off or you can't leave certain situations that they want you to stay in. And in today's video, I'm going to go over 5 traps that narcissists lay for you to make you feel like you have to do the things they want or you have to stay in the relationship with them. And I hope that after I describe these traps, if any of these apply to you, you can more easily recognize them and hopefully free yourself from them. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. The first kind of trap I want to talk about is guilt tripping. Narcissists are really good at making you feel guilty when you haven't done anything wrong. And they can especially use this guilt to keep you stuck in situations that are making you miserable, one of which may be staying put in a relationship that you don't really want to be in. Narcissists can be generous, they can be helpful, they can do you favors, but narcissists truly never do anything for the benefit of other people unless they're expecting something in return. And this can very commonly be the ability to manipulate you and guilt trip you. So in other words, narcissists might do really nice, generous things for you, but they might only be doing it just so that they can say later, after everything I've done for you, or wow, I guess you're really not that grateful for all the things I've done, or how can you do this to me after I ABC, whatever it was they've done for you in the past. And that's why they did these things for you in the past. So some things to keep in mind if this is something that you're struggling with is, first of all, narcissists are really good at making a really big deal out of things they've done for you, really blowing them out of proportion, really acting like they were so put out and this was so much effort and they had to give up so much to do whatever it was they did for you. And at the same time, they will greatly minimize the things that you've done for them. They'll make you feel like whatever you did wasn't really that big of a deal, or you should have just been doing that anyway, or it wasn't enough, or you weren't doing it right, or you weren't listening, or you keep messing it up. So the things that you do for them, no matter how much effort you put into it, you'll tend to feel like it's not as big of a deal as maybe it actually is, because they're never happy. They're never grateful for anything you do for them. So you really have to have a lot of confidence to look at what you've done for them and be able to tell yourself, no, I've done a lot for them. And you also have to have a lot of confidence to be able to look at all the things they've done for you and maybe recognize that they haven't done as much for you as they're making it sound, or as much as they feel like they've done. So that's one thing to take a look at. Step back and really ask yourself, how much has this person actually done for me? How much of what they did for me was actually a big sacrifice or took a lot of effort? I knew one person that married someone who is a citizen here in the US. And this person was from a different country, and a country that wasn't a horrible country, but the standard of living here in the US is a little better than the country this person came from. But this person came here, married this person, and lived here in the US for a few years. And I guess I should say, in my opinion, this was one of the most narcissistic people I had ever met. And I remember this person saying, I came here, I left my friends and family and home, and I came here and I gave everything up to be with this person, and what have they ever given up for me? And I remember listening to this and thinking like, wow, okay, I guess that's a good point. But now in hindsight, after really getting to know this person, I realized this person had actually already left the country they were from. They weren't living there anyway. And they weren't really giving up anything. Everything that they got after they got here, they actually gained quite a bit. And they chose to come here to marry this person that they were with. So this is just one example of how narcissists will blow out of proportion what they've done, what like in reality, this person really hadn't given up anything, really hadn't done anything. In fact, this person had gained something, a better standard of living, and this is where they wanted to be. And I don't know if this is true, but I suspect that when this person decided to divorce this very narcissistic person I knew, I suspect this narcissistic person very likely threw out, wow, I gave up everything and I came all the way over here and now you're just gonna leave me? And one more point I want to cover on this topic is the idea that narcissists have that if I am nice to you and if I give you this and if I do you this favor, it's now okay for me to mistreat you. You're obligated to stay with me. You're obligated to stay in this relationship because I paid some bills for you, or I put in a good word for you at this company, I got you a job, or I made dinner for you, or whatever. You owe it to me now to stay put because I did something for you. There is nothing that anyone can do for you, no matter how generous, no matter how helpful, no matter how wonderful of a thing somebody has done for you. There's nothing anyone could ever do for you that would make it okay for them to mistreat or abuse or exploit you. You deserve to be respected and treated well by the people in your life, no matter what they've done for you. Narcissists have this idea in their head that if they do things or spend money on you or put effort into something you like, that means that it's okay now for them to mistreat you. They can treat you however they want now because they've somehow bought the right to control and manipulate you. And that's just not how it works. It's not okay. If someone's mistreating you, abusing you, exploiting you, you don't have to put up with that. And it doesn't matter what they've done for you. The second trap I want to talk about is future faking. Narcissists and other toxic people are really good at keeping you holding on to a very miserable, toxic, abusive relationship with the hopes that things are going to get better, with false promises and this feeling that if you just try a little harder, if you just hold on a little longer, everything's going to be all worth it. Or if you give up now and leave, you're going to miss out on some grand reward, on some great miraculous change or some amazing thing they're supposed to do for you in the future. So you better just stick it out because somehow it's all going to be worth it in the long run. They can also make horrible situations seem temporary, or you might just be doing this in your own head. Maybe you're going through a rough patch because the narcissist lost their job, or they're going through some personal problems, or maybe they have some health problems, or there's just some sort of situation that seems temporary to you that you are blaming abusive behavior on, and you think once we get through this rough patch, everything's going to be okay again and it's all going to be worth it. I just got to get through this rough patch. But you will find that the longer you stick around with people that treat you like garbage because you think it's temporary, because you think that as soon as they get healthy again, or as soon as they find a job, or as soon as they graduate from school, then they're going to treat me nice again. That day will never actually come because there will always be some other thing that they're going through, some other reason that they can't treat you like a human being. Now, relationships have ups and downs. We all know that, and I'm sure a lot of us might use that as justification for staying in an abusive, exploitive, manipulative relationship, thinking, well, this is just one of the downs. We're going to go through ups and downs, and if I can't get through the hard times, then I don't deserve the good times, right? But these ups and downs in relationships shouldn't include downs that are being mistreated, being abused, having your partner treat you like garbage. That's not a down in a relationship. That's just being with somebody that doesn't care about you. Downs are when bad things are happening to you and you're getting through them together, and maybe you're having communication issues, or maybe you're having to work on learning how to get through things together in a constructive, healthy way, right? But it's not one person is treating the other person like garbage and that person has to just sit and wait until their partner decides to have a little bit of respect or the bare minimum of decency. That's not a down. That's just a really horrible relationship. And once you do reach the end of your rope in these types of relationships and you decide to leave, the narcissist will often know just what to say, just what to do to bring you right back into that place where you believe that the future holds something that's worth all of this. Oh, they've been a lot better lately. They've really been treating me a lot better lately. I know they were terrible last month, but the last few days, they took the garbage out. They complimented me. They even took me out to dinner. You know what? I think that I finally reached that point where everything's all going to be worth it. I'm so glad I held on. And that never really lasts because somebody that treats you like garbage, doesn't respect you, doesn't care about you, and that's not something that really very often changes. That's a pretty permanent situation. And when they start treating you a little better temporarily, it's just to set this trap for you. It's just to make you feel like, oh, there is hope here. Oh, maybe this is all going to be worth it, and I'm not going to have to do the hard thing of facing the truth and somehow getting out of this horrible relationship. I mean, I'm sure that there is a certain amount of time that you should try to work through problems, right? But I don't think that you should be spending your time in a relationship because of what you think it might be someday, because of what it's supposed to turn into at some point, or what you think it's supposed to be. You should choose to stay in a relationship because of what that relationship is, because of the reality of what it is in day-to-day life, not because of what you think it might become. The third trap I want to talk about is gaslighting, and this is a big one. This is where the narcissist or toxic person will convince you that you're the one with the problem, or you're making a big deal out of nothing. Or, you know, they wouldn't be so angry with you if you would just listen or try harder. So you're in this situation where you're in a relationship in which you've tried and tried and tried and tried. You care. You don't want to lose it. You're willing to change your behavior. You're willing to do things to improve the relationship, but no matter what you do, nothing ever gets better because you really don't have any control over it. You're being treated like garbage. You're being made to feel like you don't matter. You're absolutely miserable, and there just doesn't seem to be anything you can do to change it. But when you try to leave, or when you even think that you might want to leave, you're made to feel like you're a quitter, you're giving up on something that you are obligated to stay in, and you're the one that needs to try harder. Narcissists will turn everything around on you to make you feel like you're the bad guy for even feeling hurt or feeling like you don't matter, for even thinking that they're not treating you right or that they're mistreating you. How dare you even think that? They might say things like, do you think you're perfect? You make mistakes too. And people might say things to you like, it takes two to tango, or there's two sides to every story, or, well, what do you think that you should do to improve this relationship? What can you do about yourself? And people that say things like this to you don't understand that, or they don't care that you're in a relationship that is just going to be miserable no matter what you do, no matter how much responsibility you take for yourself, no matter how much you try to change yourself. No matter how much you work on this, you're with someone who wants you to take all the blame for everything. And quite frankly, they're the one causing the lion's share of the problems. And you're stuck in this situation where you can't fix the problems, but you're being blamed for them. And you can't leave because then you're going to be the bad guy. Then the narcissist is going to point to you and call you a quitter, call you a deserter, accuse you of walking out on your obligations. And what makes this so much worse is that you can often find yourself confused and believing these things yourself, and feeling guilty and feeling confused and trying to put your finger on exactly what's wrong here because nobody's validating you. Or the narcissist is saying things that you feel like you really can't defend. Like, so do you think you're so perfect? Or what, do you want this relationship to be perfect? And you end up saying, well, no, but, and you don't really know how to come back from that. And there's also what I call abuse amnesia, where after the abusive behavior has passed, even minutes after it's passed, and the abuser starts acting nicer to you, it's hard to really put your finger on what the abusive behavior is. It's hard to articulate how hurt and distressed you are, how much fear you live in. And you feel like you have to justify this to somebody, like you're constantly on trial trying to prove something that you can't even explain or articulate. And you're just stuck in this miserable situation that you're being blamed for, but you can't do anything about. Really, for this, that's why I make these videos, so that you can listen to your situation being described and keep your feet on the ground and realize that it's not you that's doing anything wrong if you're actually putting effort into trying to improve this relationship and nothing you do ever does any good. And if you're truly miserable, but you feel obligated or guilty to, like, you have to stay, like you don't have the right to leave, that shows that you value the relationship. That shows that you value commitment and that you don't take it lightly that you want to leave this relationship, but you're so miserable that you wish you could. I've personally been in that situation, and now in hindsight, I wish I could go back and tell myself that you are not obligated to stay in any relationship that makes you miserable. Life is too short for that. And people that you're with, they don't have to agree with you. You're not a bad person for wanting to leave an environment that is ruining your life, that is making every waking minute miserable, that you're afraid in your own home, you're uncomfortable, you're walking on eggshells, you're nervous. You should never feel obligated to stay in a miserable situation. That's my opinion. And you don't need to prove that to anyone. This is your life. These are your personal decisions. And if you feel like somebody else has to agree with you or somebody else has to validate your personal life decisions, just think about whether or not the people that are trying to guilt you and gaslight you into staying, whether or not those people ever come to you for permission for their life decisions. And also, narcissistic abusive people will often up and abandon their relationships with no warning and no good reason. After you realize that you're in an abusive relationship or that the person you're with is extremely narcissistic, that relationship, there's no integrity in that relationship anyway. There's no integrity, there's no commitment in a relationship where one person is tormenting the other one and abusing them and using them and manipulating them. Those promises have already been broken, and I don't think you owe anything to someone that doesn't care about how you feel or how their behavior affects you, and especially not someone who insists on blaming you for everything. The fourth trap I want to talk about is blackmail. Narcissists often build fake trust with people where you will start to feel comfortable sharing personal things with them before you really ought to. You'll start to feel like you can trust them when you really can't. And you might share really vulnerable things, or really compromising things with them, deep, dark secrets, or just embarrassing things that you share with them in confidence, and then later realize, oh, if I leave this person, or if I do something they don't like, now they're going to tell everybody what I told them, and it might even be, maybe you even got mad one day and you just started venting to them about somebody that you both know. Maybe it's something just that simple. And now oh, they're going to go tell that person the things I said. And this can also apply in situations where the narcissist actually coerces you into doing things that you wouldn't normally do. Now, you need to take responsibility for your choices, for what you choose to do. But I also think that this is pretty devious and pretty insidious when the narcissist purposefully manipulates you into doing things, pressures you and coerces you into doing things that you wouldn't normally do, things that are out of character. And then they can turn around and use that to blackmail you and tell everybody, oh, you wouldn't believe what she did or he did. I was there. And they will, of course, leave out the part where they coerced you into doing whatever it was you did. And then outside of these forms of blackmail, they might just lie about you. And you be afraid of that. You might be afraid that they're just going to make things up and tell people things that aren't fair, or tell people half-truths about you. And this can keep you stuck in a very toxic relationship, just being afraid of what other people are going to think. Now, I've experienced this myself, and I was in a situation where I had a whole smear campaign conducted against me that was based on a half-truth. I mean, it wasn't a complete lie. It wasn't completely made up. There were some things that I was pretty embarrassed about, but it certainly wasn't a fair representation of what happened. And I lost a huge chunk of the social network that had been such an important part of my life. I felt like I lost everyone, but of course that's not true. But that was really humiliating, and I got through it, and I lost a whole bunch of people that I thought were my friends, but I would do it again 100 times over. It was absolutely worth it. And the people that just believe these things that are said about you and just judge you and just throw you away like a piece of garbage because of what someone else said about you, they're not worth your time. They're certainly not worth the pain of staying in an abusive relationship. So these are people that don't care about you. These are shallow people. These are immature people that would throw someone away based on what someone else says about them. These are not people that are worth your life. It hurts, and it can be really, really hard to get over being rejected in this way by people that you thought were your friends. It's not fun, but it's a small price to pay, honestly, for freedom, and for the freedom to be able to find people that actually do value you as a human being, that actually do know you, and actually wouldn't just throw you away like a piece of garbage based on something somebody told them. And if you do have to go through something like this, your real friends will stand by you. And there probably are a good portion of people that will hear things about you, and they'll either say, well, nobody's perfect, and I know this person enough to know that I still value the relationship, and I'm not going to just throw this person away based on this one piece of information when I don't even have the whole story, right? Or they might think, I don't understand the whole story here, and it's none of my business. People that are really your friends will give you the benefit of the doubt, or they will at least give you a chance to explain yourself before they decide to throw the relationship away. Anyone else really isn't worth it, isn't worth your time, certainly isn't worth sticking it out in a horrible relationship just because you're afraid of what they might think of you. The last trap I want to talk about is the trap of dependence. Now, this one can be a lot harder to overcome because it's not just an emotional trick or a manipulation. You might truly be financially dependent on a narcissistic person. Maybe it's your boss and you need this job and you can't just quit. Or maybe it's a partner or spouse that you are financially dependent on. Maybe you're emotionally dependent. Maybe you feel like if you leave this person, there's nobody else in the world for you and you're going to be alone for the rest of your life. Or maybe you depend on this person logistically. Maybe you have kids together and you need each other to help take care of the kids, or you need each other to help take care of other family members or something like that. Somehow you're dependent on the narcissist or the abusive person. I know that life isn't always simple, and sometimes it can be really, really difficult to leave abusive situations. But I really also believe that 99% of the time there is a way out. And like I was saying earlier, narcissists really tend to completely overblow what they do for you. You might not be nearly as dependent on the narcissist as you think you are if you really step back and think about it. And I also want to say that I've been in this situation too. I was in a situation where I couldn't just leave because I had no idea how I was going to put a roof over my head. But I made a plan, and it took me a while, but I was able to do it because I decided that I wanted to, and I found a way. And I don't want to be insensitive to anyone that really doesn't have a way out, but I would ask you to reconsider and really look at the options you have. And don't underestimate how toxic and damaging an abusive relationship is. You might have options that you just don't want to take because you're just used to the situation you're in. But something that might be scary or unknown isn't necessarily impossible. It might just seem impossible, or it might just seem like it's not worth the risk. But don't underestimate how horrible an abusive relationship really is, even if you're used to it, because we can get used to anything, and we can really start to minimize how miserable we really are, how difficult this experience really is for us, how much trauma is really being caused to us, how afraid we feel every day in our own home. So really step back and weigh how dependent you actually are on this person, whether or not you do have any options, how much danger you might actually potentially be in. Many abusive people are far more dangerous than you might want to acknowledge. No human being should ever have to stay in an abusive relationship, and I personally can't think of anything that I would be gaining from the relationship that would be worth staying in it for. And one more thing you can ask yourself if you feel stuck in this situation is, what if this person one day just left, just disappeared on you? Or what if something happened to them and they passed away? What would you do? Do you have any options? Do you have any way to go on without them? Because if this person is abusive and narcissistic, they might just up and leave you someday. They might just disappear out of the blue with no warning. What would you do in that situation? I would really challenge you to question the belief that you don't have any way out, because I'll bet you probably have more options than you think you do, even if these options might take some time to exercise. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.